What's up? Travel Chronicles, chapter 116 or so. Big stuff today. Warriors won again, so that dynasty's intact. Fantastic. Makes the NBA almost unbearable. Congratulations. And it's not they're bad. No, they're good players. It's a good team. You know, they play basketball the right way. It's just at this point you hate everybody on the team, even Steph. Maybe hate's a strong word. It was just you've seen it. We've seen it, and I think in this day and age, like, dynasties are less impressive, especially dynasties where it's the same player, same coach. You know, you basically have four people that have been on every championship team, and it's just not enjoyable. It's just not the best thing to watch. I do like the fact that they won after KD left. That's just funny. But I think it's hard to tell what's going to happen next year. You haven't had the draft yet. You'd like to see Orlando put something together, but it's possible that they run Suggs out there and 4 7-footers just because wingspan. Looking forward to it. I hope they do. I hope they figure something out. As far as predictions for like next year or something, I have no idea. The COVID kind of screwed Brooklyn over this year because they wouldn't let Kyrie play at home, which was dumb. And now, COVID just, it won't die. I don't think COVID's ever going away. Whether they stop calling it COVID-19, I think they, for most part, I think they have. I think they've dropped the 19 since that was 3 years ago. And now it's just, COVID. And they're like, get your booster shot. And guys, it's advanced to the point where the shot's not going to, it's never going to eliminate it, because you would have to get everybody the shot within like a 2-week period in the entire world. And according to World of Data, the death rate is, and I'm not sure if it's 1.49% or less than 1%, but when it puts the percentages up there, it just says 99 and 1. So the death rate's down to 1%. I think when it first started, it was up around 10. When you were getting the China numbers in, the testing wasn't great, so a lot of people probably had it that weren't getting reported. And then it went, after you got into it and you started getting good data, it went down to like 2%. And even then, you're still having a lot of people who are probably missing the testing part of it. But I'm just going to avoid it as much as possible now. Avoid testing, avoid any of it, because it's just insane. It's insane at this point. I've probably had it 3 times, and just you don't even know it now. All right, your nose starts running a little bit, you probably tested positive. It's just a matter of what you want. Like, do you want that, or is it all right? We're gonna press through. I think most of the people that have died from it, and I haven't looked at it on an annual basis either, because that first year, whatever the death rate was, maybe it was above 2. And they kept putting that figure out there. And what else was funny was that we crossed the 1 million death number, right? Because leading up to the election last year, or 2 years ago now, coming into that, everybody was like, oh, almost half a million people have died from this, or whatever the number was. Now we've crossed the 1 million death plateau, or plane, or whatever you want to call it, that mark. Nothing. Crickets. Nobody cared. It's like, well, what's going on? Like that's a huge number, right? You know, we're supposed to care about this. We're supposed to be all about this, and it's like we crossed 1 million and crickets. You know, nobody publicized that because they didn't want to make Biden look bad, and it was ridiculous. I mean, this is by far the worst presidency I've ever seen, and I don't mean that like hyperbole. You know, just well, this guy's the worst ever. No, I mean, you're looking at record inflation. Gas prices have crossed over $5 a gallon for the first time ever, and they were like 2 something. I mean, it wasn't even close to 5. It wasn't like it was 4.80, and then like well, it went to 5. Well, I couldn't stop 10 cents. No, it was like 2 something, and he got it all the way to 5. And I say he got it there because he hasn't done anything to stop it. You know? And it doesn't make sense because I don't think the barrel of oil is all that high. But gasoline prices have just shot sky high. They've hiked interest rates, so the stock market's crashing. I don't say crashing, but it's having a precipitous drop. How about that? You know, and all the things that go along with it. S&P's down. NASDAQ took a huge hit. It's down to like 2002 numbers or something. And it's just, you know, after a while, right? I think coming from 1980 to 2000, you kind of had this general increase because, you know, if you want to call it Reaganomics or the trickle-down economics, or that led to a stable economy, at least from the standpoint of stocks, to where, like, hey, we could base retirements on 401ks that are investments in stocks. And it, you know, it sounded like a really good idea because that was the basis for the 401k, was that time period from about 1980 to the late 90s. Then in 2000, you had this dot-com bubble hit, where everybody got into tech because they thought tech was going to be huge, and rightfully so. I mean, it was, but just there was a bunch of companies out there that just had no clue what they were doing and were trash. And some money went that way, and it ended up just, you know, a lot of people got burned from it. So you had that cycle. Then in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, you had the housing bubble, where there's variable rate mortgages came in. People signed into the rates that were low. Eventually the rates got jacked up. They couldn't afford it, and there was going to be, you know, mass foreclosures. The banks were losing tons of money, and it was just like, we need help. So then the government bailed them out, bailed some automakers out, and, you know, it was the bailout, right? Everybody, okay, here, take some money, you guys will be okay. And that's how that worked for a little bit. And then, you know, by 2020 you have the pandemic. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, everything drops off. So you had about 11 years there where things were kind of untouched. Things were going, you know, the right way. And we're still printing money, but, you know, when 2020 hit, boom, took a dip, but then it came back because people were getting all this money from the government. And people were, you know, they were okay. You know, they weren't starving to death at that point. So they took that money and they invested in stocks. It's like, all right, I got some money. I'm going to put it in stocks. I'm going to put it into cryptocurrency. How about that? I'm going to buy some of that because that looks like it could be worth a lot of money later. And then you get to a point in 2022 where all the things that happened from the pandemic, where you shut stuff down, you shut supply chains down, and those things haven't caught back up like at all, because it was like, stop, everybody stop. Well, you still got people living, you still got people using stuff, right? So stuff wears out, it needs to be replaced, and you don't have anybody making anything. So therefore, I don't know. I mean, my plant never stopped, but somewhere some people stopped doing stuff. You know, I don't know if it was China or what, but now you're short on chips, you're short on certain, you know, metals, just raw materials in general are hard to get to be able to make anything. So then you started seeing, you know, little price increase here because it's harder to get stuff. You know, kind of supply and demand a little bit. But now it's just snowballed to the point where inflation has gone crazy. And part of it's this Ukraine war, right? Or at least we're blaming it on the Ukraine war. In 2020, 2019, somewhere in that area, the United States was energy independent. We weren't dependent on foreign entities to supply us our energy. We had enough gas. We had enough natural gas. You know, solar and wind were making up, you know, the gaps. That's fine. But now, gas is $5 a gallon. Gas is like almost doubled, or more than double, I guess, depending on where you're buying it, or for what price, or what time frame. In the last 2 years, I think it was like $2.80 or something. So it hasn't quite doubled, but it's close. Some places it had. I figure in California it's doubled, because it's over $6 a gallon out there, and it's ridiculous. One, because the government hasn't done anything, you know, and it's like they're just letting it happen. But it can be dangerous, because I think, you know, the more money that's out there, the more it's going to end up in the rich people's hands. So you have a select few where the majority of the money ends up, because the rest of the people, the higher the prices get, the less money they're going to have, because you got to have food, you got to live inside, you got to stay warm. That's hard. That takes a lot. So you're definitely not saving anything. Nobody's going to be saving anything right now. And if you wanted to get a house, you know, I was thinking about this, like, do you need a house? Our house is a scam made by the bank. I don't want to say a scam, but like, banks need to make money, right? So, you know, if they can't invest back in and get the interest off of people taking out loans for, you know, businesses and stuff like that, hey, housing loans that's a great idea. We got to get people in houses. Hey, you need a house. Like, do I? You know, I'm sure there's other ways that you could, you know, stretch a dollar. And yeah, you don't have the equity or the asset, but, you know, is it a smart investment to buy a $70,000 house or a $100,000 house when you don't really have any money and you're just committed to it for 30 years? Like, yeah, I'm going to have that, and then in 30 years I'll have $100,000, but I'll have paid, you know, $130 for it. Like, what did you just do? Plus upkeep, plus if you want to improve anything in the house. That's kind of a racket. I'm not convinced. I have to think about that more. But all the stuff is costing more. People are going to have less money. So now that bottom part has even less. And the wealth is just going to go to the people that are, you know, able to thread the needle here and still do something worthwhile. You're starting to see the economy slow down. I'm seeing announcements of people getting laid off because housing prices are so high, because crypto's tanked. You know, certain markets have already reacted. Mine hasn't yet, and I say yet, but I mean, this can't go unchecked forever. You know, I would say you need some resolution. You know, if not by the end of the month, I mean, it needs to at least be trending positive by the end of summer. Because if it's not trending the right way by the end of summer, I don't know where it ends. You know, I don't know where things turn around, because just the incompetency is astronomical. I don't know how you fix that. You can't fix that. You can't add anything to this to fix that, because they don't know what they're doing. And it's a little scary. A lot of people, I out there like that. So maybe it's time to hunker down, figure out where I can put a garden down and cut some wood to burn for the winter. So, I don't know. It's, then what would you do for money? You still have to have money to pay for stuff. I don't know. Alright, well, that's all I got for right now. I'll see you later. Careful. Be COVID free.